The broadcast of the regular meeting of the Transportation and Public Works Committee will now begin.
Good afternoon to the regular scheduled meeting of the Transportation Public Works Committee. This day, February 3rd, 2021. I'm Councilman Kevin Reich. I chair the committee and I'm joined by my colleagues on the committee as well. And we do have a quorum, which we will confirm. But as we begin, I will note for the record that this meeting is remote participation by members of the City Council and City staff as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared public health emergency. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Councilmember Gordon.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
Bender. Chair Wright.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum. In recognition of February as Black History Month, Fire Chief Brian Tyner has challenged council members to open each public meeting with a historical fact tied to Public History Month. In that spirit, on this day in Black history, February 3rd, 1870, the 15th Amendment to the United States Constitution, known as Black suffrage, was ratified, granting African American men the right to vote by declaring the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was the third and last of the Reconstruction Amendments in the aftermath of the Civil War. Nevertheless, for decades to come, Southern states continued to disenfranchise generations, including poll taxes and literacy tests and voter registration. These legal barriers, combined with violent intimidation by white groups, suppressed Black participation in the core function of democracy. It would take the passage of the 19th Amendment, which extended the franchise to women, and the 24th Amendment, which prohibited poll taxes in federal elections, as well as the Voting Rights Act of 1965, before the majority of African Americans voters in the South were able to register to vote. That long, complicated, and difficult journey, a journey that continues even to this day, as witnessed in the past year's presidential election, took its first steps this day in 1870, more than 150 years ago. So that is hereby recognized. And I will now go into the consent agenda, of which we have 25 items, which I will read for the record, noting any committee member can pull them for further deliberation. Item 3 is the contract amendment with PCI Roads LLC for the First Street North over Bassett Creek Tunnel Repair Project. 4 is the contract amendment with Custom Products and Services for streetscape maintenance services for special service districts. 5 is the grant application to the Minnesota Department of Transportation for 2021 Local Road Improvement Program funds to the reconstruction of Hennepin Avenue from Lake Street to Douglas Avenue. 6 is the I-35W Solutions Alliance Joint Powers Agreement. Items 7 through 21 are appointments to Special Service Districts Advisory Boards, with all the appointments listed on the agenda. 22 is the setting of a public hearing for February 17th, 2021 in this committee to consider the ordinance amending Title 17 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances relating to streets and sidewalks, amending advisory board compositions in certain special service districts, and changing the name of the 48th Street East and Chicago Avenue South Special Service District. Item 23 is setting a public hearing for March 3rd of this year in this committee to consider the ordinance of Title III, Chapter 54 of the Code of Ordinances relating to air pollution and environmental protection, stormwater management, repealing and replacing the Chapter 54 in whole to meet state and federal Clean Water Act requirements and to improve water resources in the city. 24 is the layout approval of the Osseo Road Street Reconstruction Project. 25 is the bid for traffic marking thermoplastic. 26 is the bid for the Hennepin Avenue 5th Street to 7th Street Sanitary Sewer Replacement Project. And 27 is the bid for the 4th Street North Street Reconstruction Project. Is there any discussion regarding these consent items, or does anyone wish to pull them? I'm not seeing any indication. I will move as submitted. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of forwarding to full council, say aye. Or call the roll, please, clerk.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Chair Reich.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Those items are forwarded. We can now go to the public hearings, starting with public hearing number 1. I will yield the floor to our present interim director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Mike Kennedy, Director of Transportation, Maintenance, and Repair, will give the staff report for this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Again, I'm Mike Kennedy from Public Works Transportation Maintenance and Repair Division. Today we're here to bring forward the public hearing for the 17th Avenue Northeast and River Ridge resurfacing projects. On December 18th, 2020, the City Council designated the location, streets, and improvement proposed to be made in the 2021 Street Resurfacing Program, project number 2337. This particular project encompasses 17th Avenue Northeast from University Northeast to Monroe Street. This is an MSA street with portions reconstructed in 1981 and 1987, and it has a PCI range, or a pavement condition index range, from 39 to 77. So it fits right into the category that we typically use to do resurfacing. Another part of this project is the Northeast River Ridge project. It's bounded by 8th Avenue Northeast and the Mississippi River, Marshall Street, and the Mississippi River. These streets are local and were constructed in 1975 and 1982, and the neighborhood has a range of 57 to 65. The proposed street resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2021 uniform assessment rates to the land area of benefited parcels located within the street influence zones along the improved streets. These assessments are not calculated based on project cost alone. The city uses a formula that combines influence area with an annual established uniform assessment rate. This formula is carefully considered and applied by city staff, and is intended to account for and reflect each project's value to the benefited properties. The 2021 resurfacing rates are 66 cents per square foot for non-residential properties and 22 cents per square foot for residential properties. The proposed total assessment in the amount for 17th Avenue and River Ridge is $170,368.19. Individual assessments over $150 can begin on the 22 assessment rolls and will be charged at 2.4%. Information can also be provided in the notices as to how persons may prepay or be granted a deferment by virtue of being 65 years or older. So our recommendation today, one other thing, there was a community meeting held on Tuesday, January 26th, just last week. There were 234 invitations sent out, 1 attendee logged in, and there were no issues brought to fore. I will say that we have received 3 written public comments. One of them was in support of the project. All of them did mention and requested that a portion of Madison Street Northeast, just north of 17th Avenue Northeast, also be included in the project. It is not included in the project at this time. However, Public Works planners are aware of that street. It is being looked at as part of a future project in the out years, what we call our out years of our capital program. And so it would be considered for paving and resurfacing at that time. So today, we recommend passage of resolution ordering the work to proceed and adopting the special assessments in the amount of $170,368.19 for this project, and passage of resolution requesting the Board of Estimate Taxation authorize the city's issuance and sale of assessments bonds in the said amount. That concludes my presentation. We are here to stand for questions if needed. In other words, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions per the staff presentation? Not seeing any indication, so I will open the public hearing. I see in the chat that there's no one pre-registered. If there's anyone on the call, you can hit *6 to unmute and identify yourself with your name and address. Not seeing any indication of that. I will close the public hearing and move this item. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Chair Reich.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Very good, thank you. And we now can move to our second item, and I'll allow our interim director to introduce that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kennedy will also give the staff report for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Again, we're here for a second public hearing for a resurfacing project for 2021. On December 18th, 2020, the City Council designated the location and streets of this program. This particular project is 54th Street East and 57th Street East. The project limits include 54th Street from 28th Avenue South to 150 feet west of Hiawatha. This is an MSA street, or a municipal state aid street, and portions reconstructed in 1964 and 1968. The PCI of this segment has a range of 63 to 66. The other part of this project is 57th Street from Longfellow Avenue to 28th Avenue South. This is also a municipal state aid street, but with a local portion, or just a city portion. And portions of this street were reconstructed in 1967 and 1985 with a PCI range of 21 to 58. So this one's got some tougher condition streets there. The proposed street surfacing special assessments, again, were determined by applying the 2021 uniform assessment rates. All of the things that I had talked about earlier still apply. And again, the rates for this are 66 cents per square foot for non-residential and 22 cents per square foot for residential. The total proposed assessment amount is $322,058.78. There was, again, a community meeting held to introduce the neighborhood to it for those who want to attend. It was on Wednesday, January 27th last week. There were 8 attendees that logged into of 363 invitations, and there were no issues brought up at the meeting. So again, our proposal today is passage of resolution ordering the work to proceed and adopting special assessments in the amount of $322,058.78 for this project, and passage of resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation authorize the city's issuance and sale of assessments bonds in said amount. Again, that concludes my presentation, and we can stand for questions. I'm not aware at least of any public comments that have come in on this one, so we can stand for questions if needed.
Thank you. Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. I see that no one has registered. If anyone is on by phone, *6 to unmute. Not seeing any indication of that. I will close the public hearing and move the item before us and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Chair Reich.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Thank you. And I believe that concludes our agenda. And with that, if there's no
Mr. Chair?
objection. Yeah, is there another item?
There is one discussion item.
Oh, great. Super. Well, thank you. I didn't scroll down far enough. I will go give the floor to Interim Director Jelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, one discussion item is a Green Fleet Policy Update. And Al Thunberg, who is the Director of our Fleet Services Division, will give this presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As Brett said, I am the Director of Fleet Services, and here to give a short PowerPoint presentation on our Green Fleet policy update. The initial policy was written in 2010, so it was due for an update. This policy, reflects our goals and changes in technology to keep up with them. Through the years, we have received an honorable mention in the Fleet Award by a public fleet group. It's the 100 best fleets in America. Can we go to slide 2, please? We also received Tier 3 Sustainable Fleet accreditation from the National Fleet Management Association. And this policy will provide framework as we advance our fleet electrification plan. Next slide, please. So we initially started with our fleet team, and primarily that consisted of myself, Tim Meltzer, our fleet manager, Chris Metcalf, our fleet management specialist, along with a lot of insight and direction from Director Jelly, was a great assistance to us as we first went through the old policy to update it to meet our current needs. Once we got through our initial policy with our updates, we presented the draft to the Community Environmental Advisory Committee in their November meeting and received some feedback from them, some really good feedback. It was a very valuable interaction with them. And the Sustainability Office was also involved in both the initial review and the final review after receiving comments from SEAC. And I need to take a step back. So after our initial team, before it went to SEAC, we met with many users within the city, representatives from regulatory services. Again, the Sustainability Office was involved, and many of the public works divisions, CPED, to get their feedback on what we had come up as a draft policy. And so after those steps, what we have now is the final draft that we have presenting here today. Next slide, please. So one of the big changes in this is we added goals to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the city's fleet by 1.5% annually. And this is to match the climate action plan goals with a REACH goal of 2% annually. Some of the key ways we are planning to achieve this is right now, all our sedans are being replaced with Chevrolet Bolt electric vehicles. It is a vehicle that's readily available. The range is approximately 250 miles a day, which serves our needs well. And the cost is where it meets our budget as well. Beyond the sedan as an everyday vehicles, availability right now is still limited. So in our medium duty and heavy duty, our policy does not require all electric vehicles, electric if possible, and it can meet the needs, but yet selecting the lowest emission vehicle available other than electric vehicle if not available. It's been a lot in the news lately, especially with the new administration, to ramp up electric vehicle production. Chevrolet, I heard recently, said that they plan to be all electric by 2035, which I thought was pretty interesting and will certainly help us out in achieving our greenhouse gas reduction goals. So we'll be working with the using departments to assure that we assign EVs to environmentally stressed neighborhoods such as the Minneapolis green zones. So for instance, regulatory services employees, inspectors work all over the city. As we implement electric vehicles into our fleet, we will work with departments like regulatory services to ensure that they're using the electric vehicles in the green zones. This is some feedback we got back from the SEAC, which was very valuable. Next slide, please. So some progress on where we're at. The picture there is one of our Chevy Bolts that is actually in the federal courthouse. We currently have 21 charging ports, and I refer to it as ports and not charging stations because several charging stations are dual port. So you can have one charging station with two cords coming off it, basically. We've installed a couple of these down at our Hiawatha facility that was paid for in portion by a grant from through the MPC based on some of the Volkswagen money that they were fined. Put in for a grant and were awarded about a little over $17,000 for that project. So when I say ports, that's the total number of cords. We also have up at the new east side maintenance facility, we added 10. We've got a grant from MPCA to put in 4 single port charging stations at our Royalston facility. And we continue to work with Xcel on our electrification pilot program. So that is, they are going to put up to 70 ports in various city facilities. Actually, the electrical infrastructure, it'll be the city's responsibility to hang the charging station on the wall and of course, pay for the electricity and provide information back to Xcel as to our usage. The Aldrich facility the design has taken place and we'll be taking the next steps, working with property services to hopefully have that installed relatively soon. That'll all be at Xcel's expense. We're meeting tomorrow with Xcel representatives at the federal ramp to take the next steps on design for that. So that continues to move forward. In our click request last year, we put in for $712,000 over 5 years through the click process to purchase electric charging stations, EV charging stations, to match up with this the infrastructure that Xcel will be installing. I don't remember the exact number we have for this year. I believe it's $196,000 or $172,000 designated to go towards EV charging stations this year. On our fleet replacement plan, we are waiting and we'll be issuing a PO soon toward approximately 20 to 25 electric vehicles, bolts. And again, that'll be to match up into the places where we have the charging infrastructure and the charging stations coming. So we currently have, I think we also currently have, 21 of our current EVs, 21 EVs, and 18 of those are bolts, with a couple other older vehicles that are actually getting towards the end of their life, or a little bit more experimental vehicles that we purchased years ago. One other thing we did here, we started last year, that we didn't have an electric option available, but we had hybrid squad cars. So Ford, we have purchased Ford squad cars for a long time, and back in 2013, they made the change from the Crown Vic, the old standard car, to the Explorer model, which has worked out quite well for the police department. In 2020, they introduced a hybrid model. It is not a plug-in hybrid, it's a conventional hybrid such as a Prius with regenerative braking. The really great thing about this is that they don't have to idle all the time. So we do see a lot of idling on squad cars. They can run their lights, be parked, the vehicle can be off, the battery gets low, it starts up on its own to make sure it stays charged and it won't leave them stranded. The result of this has been really great mileage increase on the Explorers for the police department. We have gone from the previous units compared to the new ones get nearly twice the mileage. The new ones are getting almost 14, which is nearly twice what the previous ones were, and primarily again due to idle. So another thing we have done for several years now, since we started our automatic vehicle management program, which is telematics and GPS that goes onto vehicles, it also provides us a lot of utilization information. So we can look at this information and we can determine how many times per month the vehicle's driven, how far it's driven, the number of the trips, number of days, and with this, we can really zero in on some underutilized vehicles and work with the using departments to, if we have 4 vehicles that are being underutilized, let's get rid of 2 and increase the utilization of the other 2. The other real valuable thing is idle time. We do have, a certain percentage of vehicles in the city that have to idle to do their jobs. Some of the, I guess, a lot of the trucks in public works, for instance, in order to operate their equipment, the truck needs to be idling. So this report puts a percentage time to each vehicle that they are idling. And it's a real eye opener for some of them, and it gives the using departments an opportunity to zero in on which vehicles driven by which employees have excessive idling, and to work with those individuals to reduce that amount of idle time. One thing I guess I just thought of when I was talking about trucks that need to run to do their job, I was going to say like the traffic bucket trucks that repair stoplights. What we tried here recently on one of their vehicles, it was also a hybrid system. So it allows the truck to be shut off when they're parked and using that bucket. Batteries will run the hydraulics to keep that bucket system running for about a 45-minute period. And if it starts getting low, the truck will automatically restart, keep the batteries charged, and also make sure that employee doesn't get stuck up in that bucket. And that has actually worked out to be very valuable as well. And I see us going to more of those in the future here. So, let's see. So that concludes my presentation, and I would welcome any questions from any member of the committee.
Are there any questions or comments? I see Councilmember Johnson in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and really more of a comment. I appreciate the update before committee, and just wanted to put this out there publicly as well that, I had been working with Chair Reich and with former Director Hutchison and Interim Director Jelly on a resolution to really set some aggressive goals around electrification of the fleet vehicles. And the last update on that was March 9th of last year. So that was days before the pandemic really forced a lockdown on everything and disrupted city business quite significantly. And it's, something that is still very much in my mind and something I look forward to continuing to work with Chair Reich and with Public Works on. But just wanted to put it out there because I do think this is a really important opportunity for the city to be more aggressive around reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But I think that the pandemic, the impacts on revenue have introduced some challenges in what was originally our hope for a timeline around that and how quickly we could move. And so I think it is something where we'll have an opportunity here to really reevaluate over the course of the next several months and through the summer and try to set some increased goals here. I appreciate the goals that are in this document, and I think we can get to a place though where our city fleet, certainly I would hope in a decade or less from now, is entirely electric, where electric vehicles reasonably can be purchased. I know we're going to have challenges around, for instance, heavy vehicles specifically, but there are also alternatives as well to diesel that are out there in use that have been effective. And so I think we have a lot of opportunity to move here. And I want to recognize that Public Works has done a lot of work in this area and has consistently been moving forward on it, for instance, with the electric charging stations, partnerships, and working on the various factors in getting these vehicles added to our fleet. It is no small task, and there's a lot of details in it from working with Public Works on this topic. They look at everything, including ergonomics of the workforce as they're using the vehicles as part of this, and even the different treatments used in vehicles that are available and things like that, and opportunities to bulk purchase with other jurisdictions. And so there's a lot of different factors and thought that goes into it that is important to mention as well. So appreciate all the work, and I hope that this year we can be bringing forward a resolution to really set a phase out date to get the entire fleet electrified.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, and yeah, I'm very committed to that work too, and very appreciative of your not just interest in work, but obvious enthusiasm for the topic, which is a motivating factor. So thank you for that, and yeah, we will continue to do that work, and I've enjoyed it so far. I look forward to this year in the manner that you speak. Councilmember Gordon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Reich. And I really appreciate this report. I appreciate the creativity and the flexibility that we've been working with to move us in this direction, and it's great to hear. I had a couple of questions and mostly focused on bicycles. I think that we might have some city employees that would be willing and interested, especially season permitting, to using bicycles as an option. I'm wondering how much conversation we've had. This might include a fleet of electric bicycles, or maybe some kind of an arrangement with one of the companies, Lyft or Nice Ride, about providing access to those, or having city employees with being able to use their bikes or even city bikes to do some of their work. We talked about that and thought about that much so far?
Councilmember Gordon, thank you for the question. Chair Wright, Councilmember Gordon, we have had some discussion on that, actually. We haven't really made any progress on it yet. It's actually been within the last couple of months that the possibility of electric bikes within the city fleet has come up. Had some discussion with Maren Anderson from Regulatory Services, and like I say, we have not made any decisions or progressed anywhere on it, but it is being explored. I let them know that fleet certainly would like to be a part of those discussions and be able to help them out in making that happen. Whatever it is we can do to help make it happen.
Mr. Jelly, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Reich and Councilmember Gordon. Just to add to that, I can say with absolute certainty, as I know people who do this are using their bikes to maybe move around to meetings and taking advantage of a lot of different transportation options. I do think the e-bike is a pretty, as with many things, putting an electric motor on something, it kind of changes the game. So I think, our primary concern, and I'm glad Al said that he wants to be part of those conversations, because safety is always a thing that we want to keep in mind. And it's not so much about people cycling, is the equipment they're using to make sure that that things are safe. So I just wanted to add that, and maybe while I have the camera, also just want to acknowledge Councilmember Johnson's comments. I think we're setting a pretty aggressive path, and we've been more aggressive on some of the adoption of electric vehicles. Al mentioned some experimental things we were trying many years ago, and even the hybrid squads. Not all jurisdictions were willing to kind of jump in to that right away, and we certainly have. And the reason we as staff feel like we can set more aggressive goals and certainly have conversations about even more aggressive goals is because we do have the support of people like Chair Reich and Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember Gordon and other council members who have been very interested and supportive of this work for many years. So thank you.
And Chair Reich, if I could just
please
add, I appreciate that. I was also thinking about the new building and how what an investment we've made into bike storage in that new building, and that could be a great place to try storing a few e-bikes, even if we started as a pilot to see if anybody actually wanted to do it or it would work as that. Also, I was thinking about our mobility hubs that we're developing in terms of this whole transportation plan. And there might be an opportunity to use some of the various shared mobility options that are being provided as vehicles for city staff too. So just to put that out there and encourage you to keep having those conversations and keep pushing the envelope here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Gordon. And I concur. I think there's an opportunity to just really put a lot of the ideas on the table and see what creative ways we can implement. I think the comment about electric bikes being something of a game changer, I believe that. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be two-wheeled. It could be a three-wheeled or four-wheeled bicycle product that we could explore. And in terms of incentives for use or employee use, again, exploring ways that they could be included as a health benefit or health insurance benefit. I know there's a scoring system to save money there. Might be some HR related ways to provide incentive as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot to explore. There are a lot more options to think about. And I think we also want to lay out a framework to be opportunistic as technology changes. And I think the department has demonstrated a willingness to do that, even with the steps that we have before us in today's report. Any other comments or questions from committee?
Maybe I could just add quickly.
Oh, please.
It occurred to me that with all my obsession on bicycles there, we should probably reach out to the Bicycle Advisory Committee and see if they would agree that any of that has any validity. And maybe they'll have some creative ideas. I'm sure they'd like to talk about it.
I think that's a sound idea. Any other questions or comments from committee? Seeing none, I will move this staff report and for adoption. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Chair Reich.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Thank you. Now, we have concluded today's agenda, and if there's no objection from the committee, I will call adjournment. And thank everyone.